the South African healthcare space, there's a lot of sort of bespoke products and offerings in that space. Could you just speak to the complexity of the South African healthcare space? Just because I think students have no idea.
Okay, well, so I mean, we're quite unique in South Africa. Our private healthcare system, from a financing point of view, meaning contribution collection and paying benefits, is incredibly sophisticated. I mean, it's world class. It's not without its problems.
Yeah.
But in terms of, you don't really see the kind of data collection that we have in South Africa here. Clinical coding, diagnosis codes, medicine coding, the sophistication of product design, the involvement of actuaries and other professionals. You don't see that really anywhere else in the world. I'm saying, like when experts from South Africa have gone to other places, they really stand out as having quite unique expertise. In fact, the challenge that many South African healthcare companies have had when going to other markets to try to take these services, which are definitely world leading, is those markets are not mature enough to adopt those services.
Sure.
The data isn't there, the infrastructure isn't there, the standard coding, all of that stuff isn't there. The health insurance regulatory environment is not as advanced, and so it's been difficult. I mean, broadly speaking, the South African healthcare system is in two tiers: public system and private system.
Yeah.
Public system, mainly medical schemes, although now increasingly there are health insurance products playing in that space. There's medical schemes plus gap cover, which is a sort of weird abnormality in the market. And then there are these insurance products now called primary health insurance products, which are also a bit of an abnormality, really because of, say, regulatory laziness over the last 20 years. These products
they're not updating.
They're not properly regulated. They exist outside of a properly regulated framework at the moment. But it means extra complexity. It means, should people buy this? Should they buy that? Do these products fit together? Are they substitutes for each other? There's a lot of complexity there. The regulatory environment on its own is complex and also politically loaded, which is another sort of interesting angle.
Yes.
There's social-political elements to healthcare, because it becomes like
there's just so many stakeholders.
Every election there's promises about, and not only for South Africa, America.
Yeah, you see it globally.
Yeah, promises about improved healthcare and other way. So that serves, the private sector serves about 15% of our population in terms of medical scheme coverage. Lots more people use private sector providers out of pocket.
Yes.
Go to doctors, pharmacists, etc. and pay out of pocket. That's probably about another 15%, maybe more. There's still no hard data on how many people are using health insurance products, the primary health insurance products, but the prevailing thinking is that's between 1 and 1.5 million policies. And then about 15% of medical scheme members have gap cover. So that's already a complex kind of environment.
Yes, because it's overlap. So you can have gap and you can have medical schemes, etc.
So some people are plugging medical schemes next to the primary health insurance plus gap cover on top. So there's really hybrid. It's very messy and clunky. Again, hopefully the regulations will clean up over time. But you're talking about 10 million people there, give or take. For about a budget of about 250 billion. Lots of complexity within that, like a wide range of benefit choices, something like 200 and something benefit options you can choose from.
Sure.
Well, that's a bit of a misnomer. I mean, within the medical aid environment, you have restricted schemes, which are bound to your employer or your industry, like GEMS for government employees or BankMed for if you work at a bank. And there you don't have a choice of medical aid, so you actually only have the choice of what options they give you, which is, so your choices there are not 250. But in the open market, where you have people like Discovery, Momentum, Bonitas, Shield, BestMed, there you can often choose. Sometimes your employer will say, like, we've chosen Discovery, and you can choose from within that. Sometimes they say, like, it's cost to company.
So you choose whatever you want,
So there's a lot of choice. And then the rest of the country uses the public system, which is funded by general taxes. So that's, call it 85% of the population, also for about 250 billion rand.
Which is crazy if you think about that partitioning.
So that introduces all sorts of questions about equity. And I mean, you've got about, call it a 5 times difference in per capita spend, which unavoidably translates into differential access, differential quality, etc. And so hence, that now leads you to what reforms are needed in the system, regulatory reforms. And we've been debating those for decades. Now we're at the current regulations on the table are the National Health Insurance, which are, is enacted. For the president at his last speech said he's looking for a pen, which was a while ago.
Yeah.
So I don't know what he's been signing with between then and now, but so I mean it's on the cusp of being signed.
Yeah.
And it's a massive reform, and it'll be highly contested, and there'll be court cases and all these other things. So that's a very, health is a very hot potato.
I think something I wanted to sort of, as we draw to the end of our conversation, was bring it back to students and some of the questions that they asked me, which I think you would give great answers to, is as a graduate and leaving sort of a formal tertiary institution, what are the things that you're looking for when you're hiring? What are the key sort of questions you're asking, the skills you're probing for? How do you go about making a decision as to hiring someone?
I mean, we try to, and it's difficult. It's understandably difficult, but we try to hire people that are enthusiastic. With good energy, you sort of tick the boxes on technical skills, and
you have to have those.
So there's some like basic hurdles that you have to. But if you have like a choice of candidates in front of you, and you have to choose. We try to tease out the candidates that are. And when I say enthusiasm, I don't necessarily mean extroverts.
Yes, like bouncing off the walls.
No. But, people that are inquisitive and curious and show a keen mind, that will, question things, explore things. We particularly like people that like to contend with problems.
Okay.
So like challenges and like problem solving. And because our style early on is to expose our graduates to a lot.
Okay.
I mean, we've matured a little bit. We used to be quite bad in terms of throwing people into the deep end. So we don't do that so much anymore. Or we do, but with the helping hand is never far away.
Yeah.
In the early days, it was worse.
Sink or swim.
Sorry for those that were harmed in that process, but now it is more supportive. But our belief is that there's an institute for learning it yourself, doing it yourself. So we try not to, even though we have lots of automation and models, but we really insist that people are able to do the work from first principles.
Yes.
So that when they're looking at the output of a model, they can apply their mind for things that look unreasonable, unreasonable, that kind of thing. So that's important. We like people that are sort of detail orientated. I think curious, inquisitive, keen to learn. It's hard to tease out good work ethic in an interview.
Yeah, very difficult because there's no longitudinal data there.
But you can get a sense often.
Yeah.
But we don't always get it right. But I must say, I mean, over the, as I say, the last sort of 4 or 5 years we've been hiring graduates, and I must give credit to my colleagues who sort of run that recruiting process. I mean, we've had great success. I think out of 20 people, maybe 2 were of us.
Sure, that's pretty good stats.
Yeah. So that doesn't mean that all stayed. Some of them.
Yeah, but it's the quality of
we were,
what they contributed.
Very happy with what they contributed as they sort of grew and matured.
The last question I would ask you, which is sort of a standard question I always ask my guests, is what is a piece of encouragement or advice that you would give to young actuarial students or young actuarial analysts on sort of the journey of qualifying as an actuary?
I would say when you're looking forward, it looks hard and insurmountable.
Yeah.
But when you look back, it's really not.
It's interesting, yeah.
It's all about perspective. When you're going through the challenge, it feels impossible, and how do you balance work and trying to, get us, progress in your career as fast as you can while doing actuarial exams.
Yeah.
While having a social life, you feel like you have to make compromises. And it is, I'm not saying it's not tough, it is tough. But for some people it becomes overwhelming. And I think, don't be over hard on yourself. If you, for many people, for many grades, like with board exams are the first things they would fail in their life because they're smart.
Indeed.
And they might get through varsity, untouched. Maybe they didn't get all their exemptions, maybe they do, but they might trip over a board exam. Like, don't be discouraged. Don't be too hard on yourself. And remember to look back at what you've achieved, because you realize, that same perspective you have now of how hard it is, you had at that time. And when you look back, it looks like it was fun.
Yeah.
Don't be too hard on yourself, and have fun along the way. Be adventurous, I would say. Like I think people don't be afraid to wander and meander. Be intellectually curious about a range of things. I mean, personally for me, I found that reading widely and having hobby interests, even hobby technical interests, are a great compliment. Like, don't be bogged down in one particular thing.
Yeah, very much so, very much so. Thank you so much for your time, Barry.
Absolute pleasure.
It's been a really, really interesting conversation.
It's really easy.
Yeah, I'm glad. And to our listeners, I hope you enjoyed this podcast, and I'll see you on the next one. Goodbye. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe and leave a review on your preferred streaming platform. If you'd like to interact with us more or add questions or topics to our pool of ideas, please follow our Instagram page at AS4Actuary or email us on asforactuary@gmail.com. Thank you for listening. Take care.